Book of Heaven, Volume 14. The 19th of May to the 6th of June 1922. Page 49 to 55. May 19, 1922. In heaven the divine will produces beatitude, while on earth it is operative, and multiplies its life and its goods in the act of the creature. Continuing in my usual state, my always lovable Jesus made himself seen within my interior, from which a little door opened, and he leaned his arms on it and put his head out, to see what the other creatures were doing. I looked together with Jesus, but who can say the evils that appeared, the offenses being given, and the chastisements that will pour down? This sight, so sorrowful, was horrifying. I also saw our poor country being struck by the divine scourge. Now, seeing that Jesus was looking with such tenderness of love and sorrow, while in the previous days it had been impossible for me to have him look, and turn his face toward the creatures, I said to him, "My love and my life, do you see how much your dear brothers and mine suffer? Don't you want to have pity? How willingly would I suffer everything so that they might be spared? See, this is a duty that the state of victim imposes on me, the imitation of you. Did you not suffer everything for us? And how could you want me not to suffer in order to spare them, and to imitate you, who suffered so much?" And Jesus, interrupting me, told me, "Ah, my daughter, man has reached such a point that I cannot look at him but with horror. And if I look at him, it is only from within you because, finding all the tendernesses of my humanity and my prayers in you, I feel moved to look at him with compassion, and for love of you I will spare their lives. Man needs strong purges, otherwise he will not change his mind. Therefore I will sweep everything away, so as to renew everything. I will do unexpected things, new chastisements, for which man will not be able to find the reason, and this, in order to confuse him. But do not fear, for love of you I will spare something. In you I feel the current of the communications with all creatures, just as I felt it in my humanity. Therefore it is hard for me not to give you anything, and not to make you content in anything." Later on I found myself outside of myself, at a very high point, and I found my celestial Mama, a late Archbishop of ours, my parents, and my sweet Jesus, who was in the arms of the bishop. As soon as he saw me, the bishop placed him in my arms, telling me, "Take him, my daughter, and enjoy him." Jesus made feast in my arms, and said, "Dearest daughter of my will, I want to renew the bond of the great gift of making you live in my will. This is why I wanted here present, as representatives, my dear Mama, the bishop who took part in your direction when he was on earth, and your parents, so that you may remain confirmed even more in my will, and may receive all the current and the goods which my will contains, and so that they may be the first to receive the glory of the work of living in my will. You are nothing but an atom in my will, but in this atom I place all the weight of my will, so that, as you move, the immense sea of my volition may receive its motion, its waters may ripple, and as though stirred, they may give off their freshness, their fragrances, and may overflow for the good of heaven and earth. The atom is small, extremely light, and is unable to agitate all the immense sea of my will, but once all the weight of my will has been placed in it, it will be capable of everything, and you will give me the field to release more divine acts from myself. You will be like a little stone which is cast into a fount. As it drops, the waters ripple, get rough, and give off their freshness and fragrance. However, the little stone does not contain the weight of my will, and therefore cannot make the fount overflow. But your atom, with the weight of my will, can not only overwhelm my sea, but flood heaven and earth. You will drink all of my will with all the goods it contains, as though in one gulp, and in another gulp you will let it out. And while you do this, you will multiply my life and my goods as many times for as many times as you drink it, and for as many times as you release it. And if the blessed in heaven enjoy all the beatitude which my will contains, and live in it as in their own center, however, they do not multiply it, since their merits are fixed in them. You are happier than them, because you can multiply my life, my will and my goods. In them, my will brings beatitude, while in you it is operative, and I ask for your acts in order to multiply myself. When you operate, I anxiously watch whether you operate in my will, so as to receive the contentment of seeing myself multiplied in your act. How attentive you should be, and let nothing escape you. May 27, 1922. The Prevenient Act and the Actual Act. I was thinking to myself, if one act done in His will is so great, how many of them, alas, do I let escape? And my sweet Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, there is the Prevenient Act and the Actual Act." The Prevenient Act is when the soul, at the first rising of the day, fixes her will in mine, and decides and confirms that she wants to live and operate only in my volition. She anticipates all of her acts and makes them all flow in my will. With the prevenient will, my sun rises, my life remains duplicated in all of her acts, as though in one single act, and this makes up for the actual act. However, the prevenient act can be shaded, obscured by the human ways, by one's own will, by self-esteem, by negligence and other things, which are like clouds before the sun, that render its light less vivid on the face of the earth. On the other hand, the actual act is not subject to clouds. On the contrary, it has the virtue of dispelling the clouds, if there are any, and it makes many more suns rise, in which my life is duplicated, with such vividness of light and heat as to form as many new suns, one more beautiful than the other. However, both of them are necessary. The prevenient act gives the hand, disposes and forms the plane for the actual act. The actual act preserves and expands the plane of the prevenient. June 1, 1922. Jesus before Pilate. What the truth is. Finding myself in my usual state, I was following the hours of the passion of my sweet Jesus, especially when he was presented to Pilate, who asked him what his kingdom was. And my always lovable Jesus told me, "My daughter, that was the first time in my terrestrial life that I dealt with a Gentile authority, who asked me what my kingdom was. And I answered him that my kingdom is not of this world, for if it were of this world, thousands of legions of angels would defend me. But with this, I opened my kingdom to the Gentiles, and communicated my celestial doctrines to them. So much so, that Pilate asked me, 'How is this? You are king?' And immediately I answered him, 'I am king, and I have come into the world to teach the truth.' With this, I wanted to make my way into his mind in order to make myself known. So much so that, touched, he asked me, 'What is the truth?' But he did not wait for my answer. I did not have the good of making myself understood. I would have said to him, 'I am the truth. Everything is truth in me. Truth is my patience in the midst of so many insults. Truth is my sweet gaze among so many derisions, slanders, contempts. Truths are my gentle and attractive manners in the midst of so many enemies, who hate me while I love them, and who want to give me death, while I want to embrace them and give them life. Truths are my words, full of dignity and of celestial wisdom. Everything is truth in me. The truth is more than majestic sun which, no matter how much they try to trample on it, rises more beautiful and bright, to the point of shaming its very enemies, and of knocking them down at its feet." Pilate asked me with sincerity of heart, and I was ready to answer. Herod, instead, asked me with malice and curiosity, and I did not answer. Therefore, to those who want to know holy things with sincerity, I reveal myself more than they expect. But with those who want to know them with malice and curiosity, I hide myself, and while they want to make fun of me, I confuse them and make fun of them. However, since my person carried the truth with itself, it performed its office also in front of Herod. My silence at the stormy questions of Herod, my humble gaze, the air of my person, all full of sweetness, of dignity and of nobility, were all truths, and operating truths. June 6, 1922. By living in the divine will, cross and sanctity become similar to those of Jesus. I was thinking to myself, how is it that my good Jesus has changed with me? Before, he would be all delighted in letting me suffer. Everything was participation of nails and cross. Now, everything has vanished. He no longer delights in letting me suffer. And if sometimes I suffer, he looks at me with such indifference. He no longer shows that taste of the past. Now, while I was thinking of this, my sweet Jesus, moving in my interior, sighing, told me, "My daughter, when there are superior tastes, minor tastes lose their delight, their attractiveness, and therefore one looks at them with indifference. The cross binds grace, but who nourishes it? Who makes it grow to the proper stature? My will. My will alone completes everything and allows my highest designs to be accomplished in the soul. If it wasn't for my will, even the cross, as much power and greatness as it contains, can make souls remain halfway. Oh, how many suffer, but since the continuous nourishment of my will is missing, they do not reach the destination, the undoing of the human will. And the divine will cannot give the last blow, the final brushstroke of divine sanctity. See, you say that nails and cross have vanished. False, my daughter, false. Before, your cross was small and incomplete. Now my will, raising you into my will, makes your cross become large, and each act you do in my volition is a nail that your will receives. And as you live in my will, yours extends so much as to diffuse in each creature, and for each one of them it gives me that life which I gave them, so as to render me the honor, the glory and the purpose for which I created her. See, your cross extends not only for you, but for each creature. Therefore I see your cross everywhere. Before, I saw it only in you, now I see it everywhere. You're fusing yourself in my will, with no personal interest, but only to give me that which all should give me, and to give all the good that my will contains to everyone, is only of the divine life, not of the human. So, my will alone is that which forms this divine sanctity in the soul. On the other hand, your previous crosses were human sanctity, and that which is human, as holy as it may be, cannot do great things, but small ones, and even less can it elevate the soul to the sanctity and to the fusion with the works of her Creator. She remains always in the restriction of a creature. But my will, destroying all human barriers, flings the creature into the divine immensity, and everything becomes immense in her. Cross, nails, sanctity, love, reparation, everything. My goal in you was not human sanctity, although it was necessary to first do the small things in you, and this is why I delighted so much. Now, as I made you go further, and having to make you live in my volition, in seeing your littleness, your atom, embrace immensity in order to give me love and glory for all and for each one, to render me all the rights of the whole creation, I am so delighted that all other things give me no taste any more. Therefore, your cross, your nails, will be my will which, keeping yours crucified, will complete the true crucifixion in you, not at intervals, but perennial, fully similar to mine, who was conceived crucified and died crucified. My cross was nourished by the eternal will alone, and therefore I was crucified for all and for each one. My cross marked everyone with its emblem.